Hey guys, thank you so much for clicking on my video. I really do appreciate it. Today, I'm going to show you how I make my UV printed, laser cut bobblehead dolls or figures. Whatever you want to call them, it's these guys right here, and the heads do bobble. What I did was I made two videos. The first video is the design video. In that video, I show you how I designed both the print and the cut file for these guys right here. And in the second video, it's the build video, and I'm going to show you how I put it all together. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get this video started, okay? Let's go. I started off by asking ChatGPT to help me make two slightly animated bobbleheads using the faces of my laser conference friends, Kendra and Alexis. And after many back and forths, this is what it came up with. I will be given the highlights of all the steps that I took to get to my final print and cut files. First, I opened up my graphics program and I opened up the first transparent bobblehead image that I got from ChatGPT. I then went to image size to see what the print resolution was, and it was very low, so I want to change the resolution from 72 pixels per inch to 300 pixels per inch. Doing this will add a crap load more pixels per inch to give you a better print quality. By doing this, it enlarged the picture a bit because now there are a lot more pixels on the page. So now I want to make my image size a little bit smaller because right now it's over 22 inches high. So I changed the width to 5 inches and it will now proportionally resize it to a more manageable size for later. So now I'll save this file as a .png file, which means it will have a transparent background. Now this next step is something that I do that will make image tracing easier when it comes time to finding the outline around the image. Image tracing works great when your image is of solid darker colors, but this picture has a lot of light color gradients and the image trace has a tough time defining the outline of lighter gradient images. So to combat that, I do the following. I'll now go to the taskbar and I'll open up Image, Adjust, Brightness and Contrast. Then I'll adjust the brightness and the contrast until I get a totally dark image, especially around the edges. Once satisfied, I'll save this file as a PNG. And since this file was modified off the first bobblehead image, it will be identical in size. Okay, now it's time to open Adobe Illustrator and place both of your images onto the artboard. At this point, you want to size both of your images to the actual size you want your final piece to be. And now for demonstration, I'll select and move the dark image off the artboard and move it over to the overflow area. So now it's time to outline our image so that I can make an offset line for cutting around the figure. To do this, you simply click on the Trace Image button, then click OK. Once done, I'll move over to the Image Trace window, I'll find Advanced, and I'll click on the Ignore Color and select White. This will remove the white background and leave only the black image. Now select the image and go up to Object and click Expand, then OK. With everything still selected, go to Object again and go down and select Ungroup All. With everything still selected, go up to the taskbar and go to Object, move down and click on Path, followed by Offset Path. A window will pop up and you can set how far you want your offset to be. I set mine for 0.05 inches with round for the joins, then click OK. Since everything was ungrouped and selected, it offset all of the shapes, but I'm only interested in the outermost outline trace. So I slowly move my cursor to the outside of the image, and when it gets highlighted, I click and I move it to the right. I don't care about all the other shapes, so I'll just select them and delete them. The last part of this step is to select the offset shape and change the background color to none and the stroke color to red. So let me move the offset shape to the artboard so you can see it better. There are a few shapes inside of this shape that I want to remove. So I'll have to right click on the shape and select Release Compound Path. Now I can simply select and delete them. I now select both of my shapes and I do a Center All Align. And as you can see, the red offset line now fits perfectly around the figure. So now it's time to add the tabs to the bottom of each figure. Now, since I want the tabs to fit into two 1/8 inch pieces of plywood, I made a digital jig to help. So I slide the digital jig up into the bottom of the feet, and using the shape builder tool, I am now able to delete all the parts of the jig that I don't need, just leaving the tabs. I now finish up the tabs on the next figure, and now I am ready to go on to the next step. So now it's time to divide the figure into two parts, the head and the body. So I'll grab one of the figures first and I'll make a copy of it. And I'll also grab a washer that will be used later. So now I want to modify the offset outline to shape it around the head. So I'll click on the red offset line and then I'll click on the scissor tool. You will now see the nodes appear on the outline. To cut this outline into two pieces, I just hover over the node and I click on it. Doing this will cut it at that point. Now I find a node on the other side and then I click on it to cut it there. The outline is now in two pieces. So now I go back to the selection tool and I click on the bottom of the outline and I drag it away from the figure and I delete it. So now I want to continue the outline around just the head only. So I click on the curvature tool and I move the cursor to the end point and click, and it will attach itself to the line. At this point, you can now drag and click to continue the line in the shape that you want around the head. When you get close to the other side, just move the cursor over the end node and click, and this will connect the line to one continuous line. At this point, I can now click on each node one at a time to shape the outline exactly the way I want it. When satisfied, click on the red outline, then press Alt and drag a copy of the outline to the side. It will be needed later. I now grab the washer and I want to position it on the centermost area of the face. This will be the center point of the spring's bobble. I now want to clip away the bottom of the figure, just leaving the head. So I click on the outline around the figure, hold Shift, and click on the figure. With both of these selected, I go up to Object, and I move down to Clipping Mask, and I click on Make. But if you notice, it clipped away the outline too. But that's why I made a copy of it earlier. Now I grab the outline and slowly move it over the face, and it will snap into place when it is centered to the face. So now it's time to make the back piece. So I'll make a copy of the original figure and I'll drag it over to the center of the artboard. I'll now click on the red offset line and I'll change the color to black. Now I make a copy of the original headpiece and I drag it over the head until it aligns itself and snaps in place. This headpiece is now on top of the body, and you can tell that because you can see the red outline on top. I want the black outline to be on the top, so I select the black outline and I move it to the top by clicking on Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. Now the black outline is on the top. Now I want to repeat the steps that I did to the head part earlier. I want to reshape the black offset line to customize it to a shape that I want. And I do this by first clicking on the black offset line, then moving over to the toolbar and clicking the scissor tool. The scissor tool will cut the path wherever I want. So I move the cursor and I hover it over the anchor point that I want, and I click, and it makes the cut at that point. With the scissor tool still active, I move over to the other side and I make my second cut by clicking the anchor point that I want. Now the offset path has been cut and it is in two pieces. I now click on the selection tool and click on the top of the black outline, move it over and delete it. Now I want to reshape the outline, so I move over to the toolbar and I select the curvature tool, and I move my cursor over the end of the black outline and I find the end point. I then click and this will connect the line. So now I can start to reshape the outline, making sure it goes over the washers, and once I get to the other side, I find the end point and I click. This will join the outline to one continuous path. Now I select the selection tool again and I click on the outline. Click on Alt and then drag a copy over that I will use later. I now select the original headpiece and ungroup it. I then select and move and delete the outline, as well as selecting and moving the head and deleting it, leaving the washers behind. I now select the washers and I ungroup them and delete the outermost washer. I now select the circle and I move it to the front by clicking on Object, Arrange, Move to Front. Now it's time to remove part of the head. I do this by clicking on the outline, holding Shift, and click on the body. I then go to the taskbar and I click on Object, Clipping Mask, then Make. It is now clipped off the top of the head that is not needed. Now I select the black outline and move it over the edge of the figure till it snaps in place. Now I move the original grouped headpiece and move it to the center of the artboard and ungroup it. I now select the washers and delete them since they will not be needed. I now click on the figure and ungroup it. I select the black outline and change it back to red since the outline will be used as a cut line later. I now make sure the head and outline is grouped as well as the figure and the outline. Now I select the headpiece and I move it to the front by clicking on Object, Arrange, and Move to Front. Now I can move it over the body. Once aligned, this is what it will look like when it is cut and assembled. Now the next step is to prepare the print and cut files for this job. So I arrange all 4 pieces onto the artboard and nest them closely together. I now place a frame around the figures that have registration marks on 2 of the corners. The registration marks will be used when it's time to cut them out. It's simple to make the registration marks. I just make a 0.4 inch circle and I change the background color to light gray. Then using the line tool, I make a line that's 0.4 inches as well. I then copy it, paste it in place, and then I rotate it 90 degrees to make my target. I then change the point size of both of the lines to 1 point. I expand the 2 lines, then I click on Unite. Doing this will print a thicker cross. Now I click on the cross as well as the circle and I do a center align all. That's it. I now have a registration mark. Now I group everything together, make a copy, and drag it down. Now I go back up to the top group and I ungroup them. I now select all the red lines and I delete them, leaving just the figure pieces and registration marks. This is now my print file that I will send to the printer. Now I go down to the bottom group and I ungroup them. I select all the figure pieces and I delete them, leaving only the red cut lines behind. This is now my cut file. I will now export the top part as a PNG file for printing. And I will save the bottom file separately as a .pdf file for cutting. This PDF file will easily import into the Lightburn program. Well, that concludes this design video. So if you want to see how I print, cut, and build this, please click on video number 2, how I build it. Thanks again.